How ChatGPT works. You type a question. A few seconds later, you get a surprisingly coherent answer. Sometimes it explains quantum physics. Sometimes it writes a poem. Sometimes it helps you fix your email. So what's actually happening in between? Is it thinking? Is it searching the internet? Is there a tiny robot inside making decisions? Not quite. Today, we're going to calmly unpack how ChatGPT works, in plain English, without turning this into a computer science lecture. Chapter 1. First, it's a prediction machine. At its core, ChatGPT is a very advanced text prediction system. That's it. When you type a sentence, it doesn't understand it the way humans do. Instead, it predicts what word is most likely to come next. Then it predicts the next word after that. And the next. Very fast. Think about your phone's autocomplete, how it suggests the next word in a sentence. Now imagine that idea scaled up dramatically. Instead of basic suggestions like, "see you soon," it has learned patterns from enormous amounts of text. So when you ask, "explain black holes in simple terms," it predicts a likely next word. Then builds the rest of the explanation one word at a time. It's probability, just at a very large scale. Chapter 2. Where did it learn all this? Before ChatGPT can predict text well, it has to be trained. Training involves feeding the model massive amounts of text. Books, websites, articles, publicly available writing. From that text, the system learns patterns. For example, questions are often followed by explanations. Stories tend to follow narrative structure. Code has specific formatting patterns. It doesn't memorize everything word for word. Instead, it adjusts internal numerical values, called parameters, to get better at predicting what comes next. And we're talking about billions of these parameters. You can think of them as tiny dials that get adjusted during training. Over time, the system becomes better at generating coherent responses. Not because it knows facts the way we do, but because it has seen enough patterns to generate statistically likely continuations. Chapter 3. What is a transformer? ChatGPT is built using something called a transformer model. The name sounds more dramatic than it is. A transformer is just a type of neural network designed to handle language efficiently. Its key feature is something called attention. Attention allows the model to look at all the words in your sentence and figure out which ones matter most. For example, in the sentence, "the trophy doesn't fit in the suitcase because it's too small." What is too small? The suitcase. The model figures that out by analyzing relationships between words. Attention helps it weigh connections across the entire sentence. That's why it can handle longer inputs better than older systems. It's not magic. It's math that tracks word relationships. Chapter 4. Does ChatGPT understand things? This is where it gets interesting. ChatGPT does not have consciousness. It does not have beliefs. It does not have intentions. It doesn't understand in a human sense. But it produces outputs that look like understanding. Why? Because language patterns are deeply tied to reasoning patterns. If you train a system on enough examples of explanations, arguments, and logical steps, it can reproduce similar structures. It's similar to how someone might learn chess patterns without understanding strategy deeply, but still play well. It predicts patterns that resemble reasoning. And often, that's enough. Chapter 5. Why it sometimes gets things wrong. If it's trained on so much data, why does it make mistakes? Because it's still predicting. It doesn't verify facts unless connected to tools that do. If the most statistically likely answer is wrong, it can confidently give that wrong answer. This is sometimes called hallucination, but it's not inventing things intentionally. It's filling in gaps based on patterns. If it hasn't seen enough reliable examples of a topic, its predictions can drift. That's why fact-checking is still important. Chapter 6. What about conversations? ChatGPT doesn't just predict one sentence. It keeps track of the conversation context. When you ask a follow-up question, it considers earlier messages and predicts responses based on that history. There's something called a context window, basically how much previous text it can remember at once. Newer versions can handle very long conversations because that window has expanded. But it doesn't have long-term memory in the human sense. Once a conversation ends, it doesn't remember you personally unless specific features are enabled. Each session is mostly independent. Chapter 7. Training in 2 phases. Training generally happens in 2 stages. First, pre-training. This is where the model learns general language patterns from massive datasets. Second, fine-tuning. Humans review outputs and guide the system toward more helpful, safer responses. This step helps the model follow instructions better. Avoid harmful content. Stay on topic. Without fine-tuning, responses would feel less structured and more chaotic. So the polish you see isn't accidental. It's guided refinement. Chapter 8. Why it feels so human. Language is deeply tied to how humans think. So when a system generates fluent language, it feels intelligent. Add to that, smooth grammar, logical structure, clear formatting, and the illusion of understanding becomes strong. But under the hood, it's still probabilities flowing through layers of mathematical functions. No inner voice. No awareness. Just extremely advanced pattern matching. Which, interestingly, turns out to be surprisingly powerful. The interesting part isn't that ChatGPT is magic. It's that prediction at scale can look a lot like intelligence. And we're still learning what that means. If this breakdown helped clarify things, subscribe for more clear, straightforward explanations of AI and technology, without the hype. This has been a mini Leviathan production. If you enjoyed it, check out our other videos. See you in the next one.